Let me say something that most financial advisors will never tell you. The day you become profitable is the day you become vulnerable. Not because of taxes, not because of competitors, but because success changes your psychology faster than it changes your bank account. I have seen this pattern repeat itself for over 2 decades. Entrepreneurs grind for years. They struggle. They sacrifice. They doubt themselves. And then one year, finally, they cross 6 figures in real profit. And within 24 months, most of them sabotage it. Not intentionally, not dramatically, quietly. They loosen discipline. They expand too fast. They trust the wrong people. They start believing they are smarter than the process that made them successful. And then the market humbles them. Now here is what fascinates me. In certain old-world families, families that built capital before modern banking even existed, there is a principle that gets taught the moment someone earns their first real profit. It is not celebrated. It is examined. Because in those circles, your first profitable year is not proof of skill. It is proof of exposure. I am not speaking theoretically. I have advised founders scaling past 7 figures. I have worked with multi-generational investors. I have sat in private rooms where decisions about 8-figure allocations were made in under 10 minutes. And I can tell you this. The people who stay wealthy treat early success like a test, not a trophy. There is an old teaching that says, capacity without containment leads to collapse. Most people focus on increasing capacity. More revenue, more clients, more growth. Almost nobody focuses on containment, the structure that holds growth safely. And that is why they fall. So today I am going to give you the first principle, the one that determines whether your first real success becomes a stepping stone or a ceiling. Rule 1. Never scale your lifestyle at the same speed you scale your income. This sounds simple. It is not. Because income feels permanent when it first appears. You assume next year will look like this year. You assume momentum will continue. You assume growth is linear. It is not. Early profit is unstable by nature. It is emotional. It is fragile. It is highly sensitive to market shifts. But your nervous system does not understand that. Your nervous system interprets increased income as safety. And when humans feel safe, they relax. Relaxation reduces sharpness. Reduced sharpness reduces precision. Reduced precision reduces margins. Margins are what protect you when markets shift. I once worked with a founder who crossed $180,000 in profit for the first time. He had been earning $50,000 to $70,000 for years before that. Within 6 months of his breakthrough year, he leased a luxury SUV, moved into a high-rise apartment, hired 2 unnecessary employees, upgraded every subscription tool, increased personal spending by 240%. His logic: I've arrived. 18 months later, a client contract ended unexpectedly. Revenue dropped 30%, but his expenses had tripled. He was forced to take bad deals just to maintain lifestyle. That pressure destroyed negotiation power. Within 2 years, he was earning less than before his breakthrough year. Not because he lacked skill, because he lacked restraint. Now compare that with another client. When she crossed her first major profit milestone, she changed nothing externally. Same apartment, same car, same wardrobe, but internally, she increased reserves, improved systems, strengthened client contracts, built cash buffers equal to 18 months of expenses. 2 years later, when her industry experienced a downturn, she did not panic. She acquired competitors. That is the difference between someone who reacts to income and someone who engineers stability. Early success amplifies whatever habits you already have. If you are disciplined, it multiplies discipline. If you are impulsive, it multiplies impulse. That is why the first real profit is dangerous. It reveals you to yourself. There is another layer most people miss. Visibility. The moment your income rises, people notice. Friends notice. Family notices. Competitors notice. And expectations begin forming around you. In certain families I've observed closely, financial growth is intentionally kept quiet in early stages. Not for secrecy, for insulation. Because attention creates pressure. Pressure creates distortion. And distortion creates poor decisions. When you are building something durable, you want as few external influences as possible. Growth requires focus. Focus requires protection. Protection requires silence. Now here is the uncomfortable truth. Your biggest risk after early success is not failure. It is ego inflation. The mind starts telling you, you figured it out. You are different. You deserve more comfort. And once that narrative installs itself, you begin optimizing for appearance instead of durability. Durability is boring. Appearance is addictive. One builds wealth. The other builds followers. Choose carefully, because the habits you install in your first profitable season become the default operating system for the next decade. If you build structure now, wealth compounds. If you build lifestyle now, pressure compounds. In part 2, I am going to explain the second principle, the one almost nobody understands, about where your first real surplus should actually go. And it is not where financial influencers are telling you, because money sitting still is not safety. Sometimes it is decay. And if you misunderstand this next principle, you will work twice as hard for half the result. We continue. Fire. Most people believe the safest thing you can do after your first real financial win is protect it, save it, park it, guard it. That instinct feels intelligent. It is not, because money that only sits slowly loses strategic value. Let me explain something that took me years to fully understand. There are two types of safety. Emotional safety, a structural safety. They are not the same. Emotional safety is what you feel when you see a large number sitting in your account. Structural safety is what exists when your money is positioned in a way that generates resilience. Most people chase the first. The wealthy obsess over the second. After someone crosses their first significant surplus, whether that is $100,000, $200,000, or more, they experience something dangerous. Relief. Relief reduces urgency. Reduced urgency reduces creativity. Reduced creativity reduces expansion. And expansion is what protects you long term. There is an old principle taught quietly in certain business circles. Idle capital attracts erosion. Inflation erodes it. Opportunity cost erodes it. Complacency erodes it. Money must be assigned a mission. Not randomly. Not aggressively. Strategically. I once sat in a private meeting with a second-generation investor whose family had built wealth over 70 years. When a young founder asked him, "What should I do with my first big surplus?" he responded with something I will never forget. He said, "Divide it by function, not by emotion." That sentence alone is worth more than most finance courses. Here is what he meant. Every dollar you control should serve one of four functions: stability, skill expansion, asset acquisition, opportunity access. Notice what is missing. Consumption. Your first surplus is not for lifestyle upgrades. It is for structural upgrades. Let me break this down clearly. Function 1. Stability. This is not just an emergency fund. It is strategic runway. 12 to 18 months of operating expenses. Not because you expect disaster, but because patience requires liquidity. The person who can wait always negotiates better. Function 2. Skill expansion. Most people stop investing in themselves once income rises. That is backwards. Your earning ability is your highest returning asset. When you allocate capital to advanced skill development, negotiation, leadership, systems thinking, high-level communication, your income ceiling expands permanently. Function 3. Asset acquisition. But here is where people misunderstand diversification. Diversification is not buying random investments. It is acquiring assets that respond differently to stress. If one slows down, another accelerates. The goal is not maximum return. The goal is stability under pressure. Function 4. Opportunity access. This one is subtle. Certain opportunities only appear when you have liquidity ready. Private deals. Strategic partnerships. Discount acquisitions during downturns. If all your money is tied up emotionally, or worse, locked in lifestyle inflation, you cannot move when real leverage appears. And here is the paradox. The more disciplined you are in early surplus stages, the more freedom you earn later. The more emotional you are early, the more pressure you create later. I watched two founders cross similar profit milestones within the same year. Founder A saved aggressively but kept everything in one stagnant place. Founder B divided capital by function. 2 years later, a market contraction hit. Founder A froze. He was safe, but stuck. Founder B deployed liquidity into undervalued assets while others panicked. 3 years later, their net worth trajectories were not even comparable. Because safety is not about stillness. It is about flexibility. And flexibility requires intention. There is another layer here that most people ignore. Money carries psychological weight. When you look at a large untouched balance, you feel powerful. But when that balance is strategically allocated, you become powerful. One is perception. The other is leverage. Do not confuse the two. Your first surplus is not proof that you made it. It is proof that you now have responsibility. Responsibility to allocate correctly. Responsibility to avoid ego-driven decisions. Responsibility to think long-term when short-term rewards tempt you. In disciplined financial cultures, early surplus is reviewed line by line. Questions are asked. What protects us? What strengthens us? What expands us? What connects us? Notice again. What impresses others is never part of the conversation. Because impression is fragile. Structure is durable. And durability is the foundation of generational wealth. In Part 3, we will address something even more uncomfortable. Why comfort, even when affordable, weakens your competitive edge faster than failure ever could. And why some of the wealthiest builders intentionally choose friction long after they can afford ease. This is where most people quietly lose their edge. We continue. Fire. There is a moment in every builder's journey where discomfort disappears. Deadlines feel lighter. Bills are manageable. Clients are stable. Cash flow is predictable. And that is when danger quietly enters the room. Not through loss. Through ease. Most people think failure is what destroys momentum. It's not. Comfort is. Failure sharpens you. Comfort softens you. And softness in competitive environments is expensive. I once asked a man worth over 9 figures what changed the most as his wealth increased. He didn't say access. He didn't say opportunity. He didn't say power. He said, "The fight leaves your body if you're not careful." That sentence stayed with me. Because the fight, the hunger, is what built everything in the first place. When you are starting out, you cannot afford laziness. You negotiate harder. You wake earlier. You analyze deeper. You move faster. But once you feel financially safe, your nervous system relaxes. And relaxation creates blind spots. There is a reason elite athletes train at intensity even in the off-season. Because once performance drops slightly, recovery to peak level becomes exponentially harder. Wealth operates the same way. If your standards slip 5%, your results slip 20%. Here is how the comfort trap begins. It doesn't look dramatic. It looks like upgrading to business class, just this once. Ordering convenience instead of optimizing time. Delegating things you should still understand deeply. Reducing personal skill sharpening because things are running fine. None of these decisions are catastrophic individually, but collectively, they rewire your identity. And identity drives outcomes more than strategy ever will. There is a principle I learned observing disciplined wealth builders. They increase capacity before they increase comfort. Always. If revenue grows 40%, they improve systems 40%. If profit grows, they upgrade infrastructure, not lifestyle. Because infrastructure multiplies money. Lifestyle consumes it. I knew a founder who crossed $250,000 in profit. Instead of upgrading his house, he invested in operational efficiency, automated fulfillment, strengthened legal protections, built stronger vendor contracts. For 2 years, his lifestyle did not change. Friends mocked him. They assumed he was exaggerating his income. But when a recession hit, his margins remained intact while competitors collapsed under inflated expenses. He didn't just survive. He acquired market share. Comfort feels like success. But resilience is success. And resilience requires controlled discomfort. There is also a neurological component most people ignore. When you reward yourself excessively for early wins, your dopamine baseline shifts. Soon, normal work feels dull. You need bigger wins for the same motivation. That is how entrepreneurs begin chasing vanity metrics. More visibility, more applause, more recognition, instead of focusing on profitability and strength. The wealthiest operators I've observed do something counterintuitive. They delay visible rewards. Not because they are stingy, because they understand timing. Reward too early, and you weaken momentum. Reward after structural dominance, and you secure it permanently. Think about this carefully. If your lifestyle requires high income to sustain itself, you are not free. You are employed by your expenses. True leverage comes when your required income is lower than your earning ability. That gap, that is power. When markets dip, you stay calm. When negotiations stall, you walk away. When competitors panic, you wait. But when your comfort level rises too quickly, your required income rises with it. Now pressure enters. Pressure reduces clarity. Reduced clarity produces desperate decisions. Desperate decisions destroy wealth. And here is the quiet truth nobody advertises. The wealthiest long-term builders often live below what they could easily afford. Not visibly poor, just strategically restrained. Because restraint preserves hunger, and hunger preserves dominance. In ancient training traditions, whether military, athletic, or philosophical, voluntary hardship was built into growth. Cold exposure, fasting, physical endurance. Why? To maintain edge. Financially, the principle is identical. Voluntary restraint maintains sharpness. Now understand this clearly. I am not advocating permanent deprivation. I am advocating sequence. First, build systems strong enough to survive storms. Second, secure multiple income channels. Third, ensure your assets produce without your constant presence. Then, and only then, expand comfort. When comfort is funded by assets, not effort, it becomes sustainable. Most people reverse that order, and they pay for it. In Part 4, I will explain the final principle, the one that separates temporary wealth from long-term influence. It has nothing to do with money itself, and everything to do with positioning. Because capital without strategic relationships is fragile, and if you misunderstand this final rule, you may build money, but never build power. We continue. Fire. Here's a truth most people refuse to accept. Your first significant earnings are not truly yours. Not in the sense you think. Money, in its raw form, is neutral. But how it moves through your life determines whether it creates freedom or chains you. In many high-performing families I've observed over decades, there's a principle rarely spoken aloud. The wealth you hoard is the wealth that dies. They do not say this lightly, because giving, not spending, not investing, but giving strategically, creates leverage that cannot be forced. Let me break it down. When you give away a portion of your early earnings, you signal abundance to your own mind. Fear is the greatest wealth killer. People who hoard are constantly defending their income. Anxiety drives poor decisions. Giving signals to your nervous system. I am capable. I can risk. I can grow. You create a network of reciprocity. Money alone does not generate opportunities. People do. And people respond to those who have proven generosity and foresight. The most lucrative deals I've seen emerge from connections made through giving, community support, partnerships, mentorships. You build influence before wealth. Money alone buys temporary compliance. Influence built through consistent contribution lasts generations. When you invest in others' success, doors open that no amount of advertising, flashy cars, or social media posts ever could. One example I observed. A founder in tech earned $150,000 in his first year. Instead of upgrading his lifestyle, he allocated 15% to a local education initiative for underprivileged youth. 6 months later, he received a cold email from a venture capitalist he'd never met. The VC had been introduced through a community fundraiser, the same initiative the founder had funded. That one email led to a $1.2 million seed round. Giving created leverage. It amplified his financial position more than any stock or real estate deal could have at that stage. And here's the nuance most people miss. This is not about charity in the sentimental sense. It's strategic generosity. You are not giving away what you cannot afford. You are reallocating your resources to create influence, options, and unseen support structures. In fact, the timing of the giving is crucial. Give before you become comfortable, before ego inflates, before others start expecting. Because giving while desperate feels like a tax. Giving while abundant feels like leverage. This is why some of the oldest families in history, the ones who survived centuries of war, famine, and financial upheaval, integrated systematic giving into their wealth strategies. It was not religious or moralistic. It was practical. A portion to education and mentorship programs, a portion to partnerships and collaborative ventures, a portion to the community that supports their ecosystem. And the outcome? They gained something impossible to quantify. Trust, access, and influence that no single investment could provide. Now, imagine you apply this to your first $100,000. Allocate 10 to 20% strategically to systems and communities that will accelerate your growth. Keep the majority for building stability and skill. Avoid lifestyle inflation entirely. Your wealth does not just grow. It compounds in financial power, relationships, and opportunities simultaneously. And this is the key difference between someone who is temporarily rich and someone who builds wealth that lasts decades. Finally, understand this. Money without influence is fragile. Influence without capital is powerless. Strategic generosity links the two. In Part 5, the final chapter, I will show you how to combine all four principles: silence, structural allocation, controlled discomfort, and strategic giving, into a system that guarantees your first $100,000 becomes the foundation of multi-generational wealth. Because the secret is not in what you earn. It's in how you manage, deploy, and expand it quietly, patiently, and intelligently. We continue. Fire.